I got some pretty cool stuff for you today. Donut. How do I make a donut? How do I put like frosting on top of that donut that looks like it's been poured on it with sprinkles? And then what cool things can we do in Stager to make it look even better? So come with me. I'm sharing my screen. I will start with SketchUp. We're probably showing you Stager right there. Here we are in SketchUp with the final, that's the done donut. So that's what it kind of looks like when we're done. You can kind of see how it looks around the edges there. But how do we make something like that? What you want, of course, as you well know, is something like, whoop, I'm in the wrong file. I'm in the wrong file. I don't want the done donut. I mean the final donut. I want this one that says, how do I draw that? Here we are. So you, as you well know, you got two circles that are perpendicular to each other, and I can put them together like that. So basically what I'm doing is saying, take this path, use my follow me tool, and spin this circle around it, and poof, I've got a donut with a little plate in the middle I gotta get rid of. So that's the easy part about that. The hard part then is coming back here and saying, I cloned this first setup and drew another surface over top of that. These are my arc tools. So I'm using my arc tool to kind of draw over top of that first circle here and make this shape. And after I drew the first one, then I use the offset tool. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. I'll get rid of this thing. Let me just get rid of this. This will be the easiest way to do it, I think. Clone this guy. All right, I'll go backwards. As you well know, if you go backwards, then you get another one. So there I am there, and what I'm doing is coming back here with an arc tool and saying I want my A for arc. I want to go from here to here and have that match. So far, yeah, I'm going to get rid of this. Now I got a clean arc here, and then I'm going to grab this one and say F for offset. I want to get a little space. This is the thickness of the goo that we're going to put on top of it. And then I'm going to get my L for pence L and close these guys off. L again. And now I've got a surface that I can then expand. So I can now spin that surface as well. So let's do that. Let's just spin this surface. I want you to see what's going to happen here. Path tool shape. So there's my path that I want to use. There's my follow me tool. And then there's my shape. And it goes verp. So it makes like that little blob that's going to go on top of the donut, and because we made that thickness, it's going to sit on top of our donut. Cool. But you're saying, yeah, that's nice, but how do you get that kind of wobbly edge? That's what we really want. That's what makes it look cool. Draw yourself with a freehand tool a little blob like this and connect it so it's closed. And then what we're going to do is spin this. We're going to rotate it up so it's 90 degrees up. Hello, 90. 90. There we go. Then, this is so dumb. Push pull tool and grab that shape and go right through your frosting. I can still, oh no, I can't grab that anymore now. It's all one big thing. That's okay. So now what I'm going to do is grab this, select through there, and then as you well know, we're going to use Control, click, intersect faces with selection, and it creates, you can see it just made those lines. So now I got to come in here and throw some stuff away. Click that, click that, click that. So you've got a whole bunch of work to do to throw stuff away, but that's okay. You're ready for that. I know you are. So there's a bunch of things that you can do to get rid of that, and you can get a little bit faster at it because you're using the E for eraser tool. So there's a you know, a little bit of work to clean that up, but you can kind of see how now you've got that shape that then you can put on top of your donut. By the way, as you know, also we can take something like this and say I want that to be my path, I want this to be my tool, and I want this to be my shape. And now I've got a sprinkle. So that's how you make the donut and put the sprinkles on top, kind of rotate them around. I just you know, cloned a few, rotated them a little bit, grabbed my rotate tool and said, come with me. I want to clone that bunch as you go. So when you hit the Q tool to get your rotate, and then say, I want you guys, I can clone the whole thing. Here, click there with the option key turned on, and then you can clone all of your guys and spin them around a little bit. So it's a quick way to populate the top of your donut. And as you saw at the very beginning, that's kind of how it looks. The last thing I just want to mention, I'm in Stager now. I've imported this thing into Stager. I soften smooth edges on that frosting, so it looks a little better. So it's got kind of a wobbly edge. But what I wanted to show you here, down at the very bottom in our project materials, there's a thing called generative background. That's right there. And in there, I typed in, I want an empty kitchen countertop. I looked at the images that they gave me. I didn't like them. I wanted an empty kitchen countertop. So I just typed that in and it said, oh, you mean like this? And I went, well, that one's pretty good. Why don't I just put that in? And it says, I will do that for you. It puts that picture in as my new background, the biggest donut on the planet. And then you've got, of course, as you well know over here in your actions, there's match image. So what that'll do then is say, I want to take the aspect ratio, the lighting, and the camera perspective and match my donut to that. So then it sets it right on the countertop and makes it look like it's actually there. I do have ray tracing turned on, so it goes a little bit slow. But if I pull back a little bit, whoa, pull back a little bit, it starts to look like a real donut on a real countertop with real lights. Like I'm telling you, this is pretty cool. You can also see that my sprinkles are floating a little bit. I may have to go back and do that. Although I think floating sprinkles would be a pretty big hit if somebody could figure out how to do that in a donut shop. Anyway, I hope you're doing great. I look forward to seeing what you do with all this cool stuff. So long.